The New York Giants face Aaron Rodgers and the Jets on Saturday for one final dress rehearsal before regular season. And opening day is just around the corner, so teams are turning their attention to cutting their rosters down. Today I'm going to be walking you through who I think is going to make the final 53 and the Isaiah Simmons trade. Let's get into it. Starting it off with quarterback, I only have us going two. I don't really see a need to go with three quarterbacks unless you really like Tommy DeVito. And at that point, you have to have a conversation if he'll even make it to the practice squad. But I just think that's a risk I'm willing to take because of how important I think each roster spot is. I'm just going with two: Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, lock it in, good to go. Next, we have running back, and I'm going with four here. I'm going Saquon Barkley, Matt Breida, Jashawn Corbin, and Eric Gray. I know Corbin is kind of a surprise there, but we've heard some things that the Giants staff might actually like him better than Matt Breida. Breida could be a surprise cut. We don't know yet. It's too soon to tell, but I think they really like Corbin, and I think they like Gray too. Obviously, he was a fifth-round pick. He just needs to work on a few things before he's really earning playing time. But I think Deshaun Corbin could come in right away and impress. He's looked good in the preseason. He's looked better than Eric Gray, and James Robinson's not making this roster for sure. I can tell you that with confidence. He's just looked slow, and it's the injuries. But these four right here are going to be our running backs, and I have no problem with that. Next, we're getting into tight end, and before I say anything, I just want to say Tommy Sweeney had a medical event yesterday, and I'm sure we're all hoping he recovers 100%, and he has a shot to make this team. Love to see him get healthy, but getting into our tight end room, this is the biggest move we made this offseason. It was Darren Waller, and you're pairing him with Daniel Bellinger, who was our fourth round pick last year. And I just think that this is one of the best tight end rooms in the league. It doesn't matter who you have in your third spot. I put Cager. I think the coaching staff likes him, but honestly, it would not surprise me at all to see if Sweeney recovers him or even Chris Myrick. But yeah, so again, just hoping Tommy Sweeney is okay. And I am very, very excited about that Darren Waller trade and seeing Darren Waller and Daniel Bellinger in 12 personnel. That's just, Darren Waller is going to attack the field in a way that we have not seen since Odell Beckham Jr., and I'm just very excited for that. Moving on to receiver, I did go with 7. I think Hodgins, Slayton, Campbell, Hyatt, and Shepard are locks, and then from there you kind of have to make a decision. Definitely going Cole Beasley. I think he's probably a lock for me too, just not for everybody. I get that. And I went with Wan'Dale Robinson as the 7th just because I'm not sure if he's going to be healthy right away. Joe Shane said he will come off the PUP list. It hasn't happened just yet, so I have him highlighted here. If it's not him, I think it still will be a 7th wide receiver. It'll just probably be Bryce Ford Wheaton or Colin Johnson instead of Wan'Dale Robinson. But yeah, this is your 7, and you have no special teams. That's kind of worrying. Yeah, we didn't really have much last year either, to be honest, but you would hope you don't really want just 7 receivers, no special teams, who's the best player out there, But in the Giants' case, it does kind of help because they have a lot of injuries, so it's kind of injury-proofing the room, to be honest with you. And I do think this room is diverse enough that Daniel Jones, it feels like he has enough now. It just never felt like he had an NFL offense around him. But now it really does feel like that now. So I'm just excited to see what he can do with this receiving core, plus the tight ends I already mentioned, and Saquon. And we're going to get into offensive line next. So we'll move right on to that. And here we go, offensive line. You got the obvious. You have Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. Then you also have Ben Bredesen, Josh Azudu, Mark Lewinsky, and John Michael Schmitz. I also added in Corey Cunningham and Tyree Phillips as the swing tackle. It could be Matt Parrott. I honestly don't know. It's kind of like 50-50 for me on that. Bad depth. We just don't have much, and you were really hoping Josh Azudu would show more in preseason. Not that he's looked bad, but you were really hoping it'd be an obvious step up, not just incremental. But Evan Neal has made obvious steps up, and that's something I'm very excited about. Everyone's talking about how he's the key to the offense this year. If he has an Andrew Thomas second year, not even Andrew Thomas, just don't be a bad player this year, And oh my gosh, this offense is almost unlocked. I mean, we're still missing a few things, obviously. An interior offensive line is still an issue. We haven't seen John Michael Schmitz play yet, so it's not like he's a lock to be an all-star, but not all-star, Pro Bowler. But I think I do like John Michael Schmitz a lot. I think I mocked him to us at 25 back in March, my only video so far. That video had 1,000 views, by the way. Thank you. That's insane. My first video. I appreciate that, but man, yeah, just John Michael Schmitz. I think he's gonna be our center for the next 10 years, and I'm really excited about that. But the Giants are lacking depth on offensive line, and I think we could look to see in the waiver wire maybe they try to shuffle around some pieces. Corey Cunningham is like my candidate. I'd cut him right away, and if there's someone there on the waiver wire, yeah, pick him up. And Corey Cunningham is gone because he looked awful in that preseason game. Next, we have the defensive line, and this is the best unit on the Giants. You have Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, A'Shawn Robinson, Raheem Nunez Roaches, and Jordan Riley. I mean, this is starting off at the top. You have Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. Dexter Lawrence is a pure superstar. There's no doubt about it. He's not only one of the best defensive tackles in the league, but he's one of the best players in the league, especially at his age. And then Leonard Williams, he's very underrated. His 2020 was great, and last year he missed his first time ever with injury. He had never done that in his career before, and so he looked a little off when he came back. But he looks back in this preseason. I'm excited to see a revitalized Leonard Williams next to this new Dexter Lawrence that we have. And then you also have A'Shawn Robinson, who was one of the best players on the field in that Bengals-Rams Super Bowl. I'm very excited about that. Nacho as your fourth defensive tackle. We got him on a 3-year deal. That's awesome to see. And Jordan Riley, man, some people are going to say DJ Davidson or maybe somebody else could be the fifth defensive tackle, but I mean, the coaching staff is taking victory laps bragging about how they found this guy already, and he's only played in 2 preseason games. I do think this is a lock to be the 5. Maybe if they like somebody else, they could go 6. I don't know, but this right here, it would surprise me if it was anything but this 5 right here. Next, we're going with edge. The top 3 are obvious. It's Kayvon, Aziz, and Jahad Ward. The 4th spot is where you might have a little bit contention with my spot, but I gave it to Timon Fox. I think he's been better than Azeez Ojulari, and I think the coaching staff is kind of leaning that way anyway. But they might keep a 5th edge just to have Azeez on the roster, but I don't know. I just think it's time to, cut your losses, move on. But I'm expecting big things from this group this year, even though the depth isn't. That's depth. Another thing. Sorry, real quick. Look at the waiver wire. They might attack it there, but not great depth. But I am expecting big things from Kayvon and Azeez if they can stay healthy. I saw something like production wise, Azeez has better numbers than a lot of big names. I don't want to blow it out of proportion. It was a lot of big name players. He has better production than on a down-to-down basis, and I'm just excited for that. And you can also see trends with second-year players like Myles Garrett for sack numbers in Kayvon's instance, and I'm just super excited for that. Kayvon was one of my favorite players. When we got that pick from the Bears, I was already a year in advance ready to draft Kayvon with that pick. I was ready to go, and I hope to see big things from him this year. Next, we have middle linebacker, and this room has been flipped from last season. Last year, we were throwing out Tay Crowder and Jalen Smith, and with the trade of Isaiah Simmons this morning, our starting linebackers are now Bobby Okereke and Isaiah Simmons, and man, that is just going to be so much fun to watch with Wink Martindale as our defensive coordinator. And I was worried about depth before this trade, but now when you're kind of, Micah McFadden might still play over Simmons earlier, but early in the year, just while Simmons is learning the defense. But I think Isaiah Simmons is going to come in and just be a playmaker. He had plenty of stats this year. He was just racking them up. I think it was his best year. He had 4 sacks, 4 QB hits, 2 interceptions. One of those was a touchdown, 2 forced fumbles, and 7 pass breakups. This guy is just going to be a weapon. I think he was used wrong in Carolina. They were using him a lot as just to cover wide receivers in man. and that's just not his game. He can cover tight ends in man, but I really think he's going to be more of he's going to be like that will linebacker for us. He's going to play the rover role, and honestly, it's going to be a lot of blitzing too. That's not a surprise with Wink Martindale, but one underrated blitzing is a underrated part of his game. His pass rush grades have gone up according to PFF each year. In 2020, it was 54.1. 2021, it was 66.5. In 22, it was 83.5. So it's gone up every single year, and Wink Martindale should be very excited to have him. But behind those two, yeah, Micah McFadden, Darian Beavers, Carter Coughlin, and Cam Brown are kind of two people that a lot of people are trying to cut off the roster, make room for somebody like Bryce Ford Wheaton. But I just don't think you want to get rid of two special teamers like that for another special teamer, especially when these two are proven. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Next, we have corner, and you have the obvious ones. You have Adoree Jackson, Deontay Banks, Trey Hawkins, Cordell Flott. I'm also throwing on Darnay Holmes, someone I really did not think was going to make this roster as of like 2 months ago even. But to be honest, he's really been our best slot, and I hate saying that because he has not been good. Cordell Flott seems more like an outside corner. Even the coaching staff thinks so. So I think you're going to have him there. Maybe Bobby McCain can play some if he makes the roster. But I also think Isaiah Simmons now can play the slot too. And we've also seen a lot of Adoree Jackson in there with Trey Hawkins and Deontay Banks breaking out. Amani Oruwariye is a difficult one. I just did not like the outside depth that much. But at the same time, we don't have much slot depth now. So it's kind of just pick or choose. And I chose Amani Oruwariye. He had some decent production in Detroit, but it's been a lot of downs too, so I just went with the upside. At safety, we have Xavier McKinney, Dane Belton, Jason Pinnock, Nick McLeod, and Javarius Owens. Not much to really talk about here. I think this was obvious. Nick McLeod, you might not know, he was a corner, and he's making the switch to safety. He's kind of a hybrid player. I mostly want to talk about Xavier McKinney, but before that, I want to talk about Jason Pinnock and Dane Belton. Jason Pinnock has had a really nice camp, and he had that one drive in the preseason game where he had like a pass breakup, an interception. He was just doing a lot, and the coaching staff agreed that, like, hey, we've seen enough. It's time to pull him off the field. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this coaching staff can do with him. He's a ball of clay, and they just need to mold him however they want. And Dane Belton, I'm excited. He looks like a playmaker. He's always around the ball, but he definitely has some things to work on. Xavier McKinney, though, that's the big topic here. It's a contract year. I don't want to say underperformed last year because that's not fair. It just looks like that when you compare it to 2021. He had a great year. He didn't underperform. His role switched. So I'm curious to see with better corners, better linebackers, better defensive line. I'm curious to see if he can just go out there and play free and be that playmaker again that he was in Patrick Graham's defense. And I would love to see that, man. I was so excited when we got him. He fell to us. I thought for sure he would go to Dallas. And they took CeeDee Lamb. That worked out for them, obviously, but I think this worked out for us too. And I would love to see 29 have a big year for us. Special teams, we have Graham Gano as our kicker, Casey Kreider as our long snapper, and Jamie Gillen as our punter. Obviously, none of those are a surprise. Graham Gano is, just keep being you. He's good to go. Casey Kreider's been solid. I think he had a bad preseason game, or maybe a bad snap. I don't know if the whole game was bad. But Jamie Gillen really needs to improve. I think he had a nice couple punts where they were deep and he was also pinning them. Like, directional. It was good directional kicking. He had good aim for once is what I'm trying to say. I don't know how to evaluate punters that well, but it definitely seemed like it was better than the regular season when he's just kind of kicking it out there as hard as he can. It did seem like he was trying to put some angles on it, and it was working. So I want to see if that translates to the regular season, but still, that's another position, waiver wire, I'm scanning for an upgrade there. Finishing it off, we have 5 players that just made the roster. It's Amani Oruwariye, Corey Cunningham, Timon Fox, Deshaun Corbin, and Marcus McKethan. Uh, yeah, I just don't. None of these players are like these are the players that if we want to make more moves, these are the first players to go. I like Deshaun Corbin. He's probably my favorite on this list, but Gary Brightwell could still make it over him. I still like Gary Brightwell. Timon Fox, I like him, but Azeez Ojulari can make it over him. So it's kind of tough. These are like the 50-50 guys that I'm just not 100% confident on, but I did have them making my roster. And last slide here, we have people that just missed the roster. Bryce Ford Wheaton, that's a big one. I know a lot of people, there's probably some people on my roster that a lot of you would cut just to have BFW make it. And honestly, it's probably the same with Colin Johnson. Aaron Robinson kind of feels like cheating because he's injured. I don't know if he's going to be released or if he'll start off the year on PUP or IR. He is on here, though. There wasn't any really other names. Shane Lemieux, another one. I don't know. He hasn't been playing. They're playing Corey Cunningham over him. And then the final one is Bobby McCain. That's actually another big one. Back when we signed him, to say he didn't even make the roster would be a surprise. I just think especially with today's signing of Isaiah Simmons, where he can play some safety, I'm not sticking him at safety, but I think Bobby McCain just is totally expendable at this point. Jason Pinnock, Dane Belton are both playing over him. Same with Xavier McKinney. Maybe if you want to throw him in the slot, like I mentioned earlier, you could do that. Darnay Holmes and Cordell Flott are not the answer there, so maybe that's where he finds playing time. But I just don't see it happening, especially like I said today. So, and hey, that's the end of the video. So I just wanted to thank you all for watching. Like I said, my last video had 1,000 views. That was my first video. I really appreciate that. And I hope you continue watching. I have some more videos ready to come out. It's not going to be as long till my next upload this time. They're ready to go. So I will see you Tuesday. Have a good one.